Why can whales dive 2,000 meters with ease, but submarines can't? A submarine is essentially a hollow steel can that has to keep 1 atmosphere of pressure on the inside to keep the crew alive. The deeper it goes, the more the ocean tries to crush it. Eventually, the pressure difference becomes so immense that the steel hull implodes, turning everything inside into paste. A whale, on the other hand, doesn't fight the pressure, it cheats. Before a deep dive, a whale exhales over 90% of the air from its lungs. As it descends, the crushing pressure collapses its lungs completely. The whale essentially makes itself solid. With no internal air pockets, there's no pressure difference to crush it. It becomes one with the ocean's pressure, not a victim of it. This is the same reason humans get the bends. A scuba diver has to breathe compressed air that matches the outside water pressure, which forces nitrogen from that air to dissolve into their blood. If they come up too fast, that nitrogen forms bubbles in their veins, like opening a can of soda. But the whale, diving with empty lungs, has no air, and therefore no nitrogen to cause this problem. So, where does it get its oxygen? It doesn't store it in its lungs. It stores it directly in its muscles. A whale's muscle tissue is packed with a protein called myoglobin, turning its entire body into a massive built-in oxygen tank. Now, this doesn't mean our technology is weak. We've built submersibles that can reach the bottom of the Mariana Trench, but you have to understand the difference in design. A military submarine is a city, designed to keep a large crew alive for months. A deep-sea submersible is a tiny, solid titanium sphere designed to do one thing: survive a short, brutal trip to the bottom. So, in the end, the submarine's limit isn't the weakness of steel, it's the fragility of the air-filled humans inside, and the incredible evolutionary genius of a creature that learned how to become solid. Why can whales...
The Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, verse 4, in the GNT. Since people are amazed, Salakia. Wisdom of Solomon 13 and 3. People were so delighted with the beauty of these things that they thought they must be gods, but they should have realized that these things have a master and that he is much greater than all of them. For he is the creator of beauty and he created them. Since people are amazed at the power of these things and how they behave, they ought to learn from them that their maker is far more powerful. When we realize how vast and beautiful the creation is, we are learning about the Creator at the same time. All praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahawah, Ba'ashem, Yawashi. Yahawah being who the world ignorantly calls God, Yawashi being his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, and there's no God beside them. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone for being faithful witnesses to the Holy Spirit, and salutations to the elect whom the Lord have given ears to hear. And I ran across this piece of information on a TikTok, and it just goes to prove how much of a great engineer Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi is. Whereas Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi, all right, Yahawah giving the blueprint to Yahawashi to create the things of the deep. I know that's in Genesis 1. Right, Genesis 1 and 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that have life, and fowl that may fly above the earth and the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind, and God saw that it was good. When we go into the word good, it means tawab, meaning agreeable, pleasant. right? So all things concerning this life, the Heavenly Father created, right? And even things to withstand harsh environments. I think about Leviathan, which is a sea monster the Lord is going to show in these last days. And the scriptures speak on his strength, how his armory, or how his armor is that of like iron. Let me see if I can find it. Right? But when you think about, the architecture of the Lord, it's similar of, the submarines. I'm talking about as far as, creatures of the Lord that can withstand the pressure of the sea. So this is Job 41:1. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or is his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make any supplication unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or wilt thou bind him with thy maidens? When you go on TikTok or have you, look up your information, one thing I always ask myself is, how the fuck this devil know this shit? Why? Because a lot of these sea creatures, birds of the air, God's creation essentially, were at one point captured, studied, and released back into their habitat to teach them of other amazing creatures. But they can't do that with Leviathan. It says, shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? That's something that happens today where, you have Moab, or is it Ammon? I believe it's the Japanese that make shark fin soup. They various so-called delicacies of these or they make various so-called delicacies of these the sea creatures, but not with Leviathan. Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish's spears? Lay thy hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one cast down even at the sight of him? Be cast down even at the sight of him. None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before him? Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a closed seal. So again, when you liken it into Esau's invention, it makes sense that this sea creature Leviathan must be super deep. It says, one is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another, they stick together, and they cannot be sundered. By his nestings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. And they even say, like, the deeper you go, the more freakier, the sea creatures look. So you can just imagine the looks of Leviathan. which you must understand that the Lord created, when he created creatures, man alike as well, he created them in multitudes. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot of cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. I remember the elder brother out there, the elder brother Malcolm, he did a lesson on how you had the scientists, they put a tag on this great white shark. And mind you, the water's already cold. And even in this freezing temperature, the tag that they saw, as they were following the shark, they saw the tag descend very rapidly. And mind you, the lower you get in the water, the colder it is. But why is it that the heat signature on the tag showed that it was actually warmer? Okay, so we can only speculate through the spirit that had to be Leviathan. Because for one, what creature can overtake another creature such as that size? Is a great, I believe he was saying as a great white shark. That's a huge creature. It had to be some big enough to overtake it and drag it down with such force and speed. It says, in his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. Right. So yeah, it's gonna go into it, because as we read in, it says, the flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raised up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold, the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. Right? He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. So, damn, how powerful is this creature that esteemeth iron as straw? The arrow cannot make him flee. Slingshots are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. And this reminds me of the behemoth Godzilla. How he's like translucent. He can pretty much shoot fire out of his mouth. It says, upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. So as we're in the most prideful time the earth has ever seen, there's going to be a day that the Lord is going to allow his marine force, so to speak, to show himself. And it's going to be bad. It's going to be terrible. The scriptures speak on how men's hearts shall fail in them for the things that they see. And the Lord already shown his air force, the chariots. All right. He's going to give his men spiritual powers in these last days. And then he's got Leviathan to break down whatever's, in the sea. So I want to grab this in the GNC. Let's see, Job 41. God damn. And 26. There is no sword that can wound him, nor spear or arrow or lance that can harm him. So you have iron, some certain swords and spears are made out of iron, titanium, hell, even diamond. But none of that can hurt him. So what is he made out of? For him, iron is as flimsy as straw. And, when you think about the pressures of the ocean, a lot of times Esau would use the ocean or deep pools to simulate let me just keep going. I lost my train of thought. For him, iron is as flimsy as straw and bronze as soft as rotten wood. All right. And pretty much what I was getting at is the vast pressure of the sea is humbling. There is no arrow that can make him run. Rocks thrown at him are like bits of straw. To him, a club is a piece of straw that he laughs when men throw spears. The scales of his belly are like jagged pieces of pottery. They tear up the muddy ground like a threshing sledge. He churns up the sea like boiling water and makes it bubble like a pot of oil. Okay? And if we look it up, let's look up some. How cold is the So it says the deepest parts of the sea are extremely cold. Okay. Well, as it says, it says the deepest parts are pretty much with near freezing at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. But the Lord the Lord has a creature down there that can turn that into like a lava. Now, let me see. Also, just did a little questioning. All right, I asked if militaries worldwide learn the essence of deep diving from whales. Now, it pretty much says not exactly, but whales have inspired scientific research that later influenced human diving knowledge. And that goes to show you, understanding the scriptures and the ways of Yahawah Ba'ashim Yawashi puts you ahead, of any scientists of today. Right? It says human deep diving developed independently. And I'm talking about, of course, of, the nuts and bolts of understanding life in general. You know, that's a hell of a thing to know that Yahawah Shem Yahushua created a massive beast that can withstand the great pressures of the ocean. It says, and it goes to show you too, man, Yahawah Shem Yahushua got judgment on standby. Because that last verse in Job 41 pretty much says how the Lord has an equalizer for pride. Right? If I'm not mistaken, what was that said? Right, it says he beholdeth all things. He is a king over all the children of pride. I like how they put it. It says he looks down on even the proudest animals. Right? And we see Eagle-Faced Trump is a proud devil. He is king of all wild beasts. Then it says whales did influence science, right? So it says whales and seals force scientists to rethink human limits. It says dive thousands of feet, hold breath for over an hour, avoid decompression sickness, control heart rate and blood flow. And as a side note, we get them spiritual powers, we're going to be able to do things like this. Remember, the Lord compared, our upgrade to that of like eagles, but our upgrade is going to be this miraculous. It says dive thousands of feet, hold breath for over an hour, avoid decompression sickness. And even certain men in this life, they have something called it's like a free diving, where you hold your breath and you dive like 400 or 500 meters into the sea and you come back up. That's very difficult. So if man can do that in this lower state, how much more us in our greatest state? It says marine mammals can dive thousands of feet, hold breath for over an hour, avoid decompression sickness, and control heart rate and blood flow. All right, and then it says studying them pretty much gave this devil more. Studying marine animals, opened up doors of understanding for these devils. All right, hey, studying the ways of Yahawah Shem Yahushua. Hey, the ways of the Lord, man. Look at this part. It says why this idea is popular. So as I'm reading through, right, you have important distinctions. And then it has why this idea is popular. Whales outperform human divers by orders of magnitudes. Military research is often classified. Nature often does inspire technology. The ways of Yahawah Shem Yahushua. Hey, the Lord is a God of knowledge. Right? Hey, there's a scripture in Proverbs that says, study the ant, thou sluggard. So you can learn how to work. So how much more all the other ways of the Lord? But I'll probably just leave it there. I just want to check something out real quick. Right, so I quoted it earlier, but I want to grab it. Isaiah 40 and 31. But they that wait upon Yahawah shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Right? So it stands to reason we shall swim, and not get weak or weary or lose breath. So the word wait, meaning to look for, hope, expect. All right? They that wait for Yahawah, Lord in all caps Yahawah, shall renew. The word renew, right? In the last, look at to pass on, right? To pass through, pass by, go through, grow up, change, go on from, right? Let's go to part 5. It says to overstep, and then go down to C, to change, substitute, alter, change for better, to show newness. Okay. It says renew, all right, show newness of strength. Strength meaning strength itself, right? Power, human strength, strength of angels, power of God. Okay? Strength of animals. Whoo, hold up. Strength produce wealth. So yeah. It says ability, able, chameleon, force, might, powerful, substance, wealth, vigor. Man, we got something to look forward to. So I'll leave it at that. Shalom to the elect.